Mercedes AMG GT is a car we like. We've liked it in pretty much every variant we've driven, and they had all kinds of variants from full luxury trims to full track versions. I'm in the brand new Mercedes AMG GT 63S, which is a crazy hybrid powertrain. And across town in Stuttgart, their frenemies at Porsche have decided to make that a hybrid as well.
It occurred to us a while back when both of these cars were announced that the icons from Stuttgart are now hybrids. Both of these cars are GTS trims, Gran Turismo Sports, the cars that are supposed to be good at everything. Both of these cars are all-wheel drive. Both of them have carbon ceramic brakes. Both of them have rear axle steering, and each of them costs more than $200,000.
Great cars, great roads, and all the reasons we love to drive.
Road trips, comparisons, test drives, and podcasts. This is Everyday Driver.
When Porsche announced the 911 would be hybrid, there was a mix of trepidation among enthusiasts. And I certainly felt it. Now, Porsche has a very nice history of hybridizing their cars. You remember the 2013 918 Spyder? It could go 25 miles range, EV only range, electric motor front, electric motor rear. And of course, that 2014 919 Hybrid. It looked like a video game when you saw the dash cam of that car going around the ring. It's at inexplicable times. And now the 911 is officially hybridized.
The latest 911 is the 992 generation. This is the refresh, so it's the 992.2. Carrera 4 GTS T Hybrid. That's a lot of things. The GTS has typically been the kind of greatest hits setup. It's not as crazy as the GT cars. It's not as track focused as those cars. It is kind of the perfect daily setup right. And beginning with this GTS, they are revolutionizing how they're doing hybridization in a car. This is a 3.6 liter single turbo engine that fits in the space of the old 3-liter because the electric motors allow them to take off all the belt-driven accessories and fit a larger engine in the same space.
There's no more drive belts. There's no more 12-volt starter. It's 40 pounds lighter, and it sits 110 millimeters lower in the car. What they're doing is going after less smog emissions at full throttle, less CO2 output at the very high end of the spectrum, which is where they expect the GTS to hang out most of the time. Turbo lag is completely gone. The turbo is the most special part of this car, and I believe every manufacturer will do some iteration of this design. The turbo now has an electric motor embedded into it.
They put the compression side and the exhaust side of the turbo on either side of an electric motor. That allows the electric motor to spool up the compression side long before the exhaust side can do it, but it also allows the exhaust side, instead of having a blow-off valve, you use that built-up pressure to spin the electric motor to regen its battery. That's genius level stuff. And that doesn't count the other electric motor that's put between the engine and transmission to keep everything trading off and going hybrid.
So it puts power back to the traction battery, brand new battery. It also has a 12 volt that operates when the car's not on. But this traction battery gives power to the other electric motor embedded inside the new 8-speed PDK to give you a power output of 532 horsepower, 449 pound-feet of torque. That sounds like a lot, and it is.
370 pound-feet of torque are available at 1,500 RPM, and full torque is available at 2,000. What are we using that for? This means you have no reason to floor it, ever. You don't even really need to use the pedal. You just kind of breathe on it, and there's plenty of power. I mean, it's not as obscene as what's in the Mercedes, but there's very little interaction from the gas pedal to do anything you might want.
The power output on this car is instant. It's so surprising. It is unlike every turbo ever. Instant turbo, and even downshift. That is the beauty, and you know what? That's what Porsche is charging you for. Imagine this technology being screwed to every Porsche variant that exists.
I appreciate that as you get deep into the pedal on this, the engine finds a new voice, a stronger pull, the gearbox is on top of whatever you need. There is theater when you really put your foot to the floor in this. While I'm here.
I cannot get over the technology in the AMG. I just want to lay the specs on you. This is a twin-turbo V8 all-wheel drive with an electric motor in the rear, making 805 horsepower and 1,047 pound-feet of torque. I don't know where to file that in my head. I don't know what to do with those numbers.
So more than twice the torque of the 911. Lesser versions of this car have about 600 horsepower, which is plenty. Not here, nope. 800 horsepower, 1,047 pound-feet of torque, which is earth-rending. That's like world-destroying stuff.
And this is what those numbers do. Oh, that's fast. The way this car moves is pretty much like no other car. There's a level of control, but then there's another level of power beyond that that makes it scary. The battery on this car is designed for fast, continuous draw, just like the Mercedes hybrid F1 car. It needs fast power output, but also at a continuous level. Well, that makes batteries really hot. They have designed not only coolant, but the entire system to remain even at about 113 degrees Fahrenheit, connected to a single electric rear motor that's integrated with a 2-speed transmission and a limited slip differential, all in the rear unit back here. The battery sits above that.
Now, of course, you can't have tech for free. In order to put all of this hybrid technology and the battery and everything in there, the penalty, of course, is weight. It's more than 1,000 pounds heavier than that 911 at 4,700 pounds, which we can all agree for a two-seater is a lot. I mean, frankly, for an SUV, that's a lot. But once we get into a hybrid world where we put batteries on board, everything's gotten obnoxiously heavy. And the power is obnoxious. It's truly ridiculous. Most of the time, you will not use more than 10% of throttle. I'm not kidding you. Because on this, like, gravity's application is too much. I bet you most owners of this car will never use more than 50% of throttle. And I would be astonished if more than about 1% ever put their foot to the floor. Do we have some clearance here? We do. You could cut the power of this car in half and it would still be fast and fun. So that means you legitimately have twice as much power as you need. It's impressive and wholly unnecessary. But I applaud Mercedes for making it this approachable. That relates to one of the brilliant things about this, and that is, I don't think I've ever been in a car where the acceleration was so all-encompassing. This may be all-wheel drive, but I have no sense of what drive wheel's doing what. I'm just sitting in the middle of an acceleration event. I'm being blasted forward in a supersonic train. I have no idea where the power is coming from and when it will relent.
Check this out. In most modes for the car, you push the right dial, the center of it, push that, and you get 3 different regeneration modes. So you can use one pedal driving in a hybrid car. This is where the battery gets filled back up. Now this has a 9-speed speed shift transmission, whereas the Porsche has that PDK, now 8-speed. I wish this shifted more quickly. I wish it did. But I've discovered, with the power output this car makes, it doesn't matter what gear you're in. If you're in first, if you're in 9th, 8th, I don't care, pick a gear, the car is gone. That's full throttle.
The speed's astonishing. It really is. And the brakes are carbon ceramic and feel better than the ones in the 911. I'm not entirely sure why, but the brakes here seem to take the right amount of application to get the proper braking done.
But the brakes here feel more natural. I still don't like carbon ceramics. They're not my favorite. I suppose you could say the speeds these cars generate and the weight of this one, you're required to have carbon ceramics, but I think it detracts from the driving experience.
Everyday Driver is brought to you by PowerStop. Brake upgrades made easy.
The 911 Carrera 4 GTS has the best road feel and the best precision of any all-wheel drive sports car I've ever driven. What Porsche has done with this, the steering rack has evolved so well. There's interesting road information.
Every 911 is deceptively quick on a back road. And because there's so little weight in the front, there's always a delicacy to the steering that's hard to find in most other cars. Now, there's not really steering feel here. There's a little bit of weight, but I'm not aware in the steering wheel of what the tires are doing. But I am aware that there's less to battle on the front half of the car than there is in most cars, and especially in that Mercedes.
The one thing that I do want, as good as the steering is, as good as the feel is, the feedback and the precision, it seems like there's a chamois, a very thin layer of something laid over the top of the steering feel that I believe would go away with the Carrera 2. But since both of these cars need to be all-wheel drive to demonstrate their all-around capability, I wanted to feel the four-wheel drive. I wanted to feel. It is superb. Look, I love driving this car. I'm astounded what Porsche has done to make this car dig into corners. This has rear axle steer, just like the Mercedes, and it overcomes the weight. Should 911s weigh 3,600 pounds?
Just think about that for a second. This is more than 1,000 pounds lighter than the other sports car we brought. You can't get away from the difference in feel. It's overwhelming how much lighter this car feels. But that Mercedes carries its weight very evenly, and the minute you hop in this, you can tell it's a 911 because it has that delicacy in the front end that the Mercedes doesn't have with that big engine. But you're also aware that the weight's out back. This doesn't feel equally balanced, and whereas that Mercedes weighs too much, it's carried very evenly through the body. This is definitely a 911 rear engine experience. This GTS has an effortless feel in corners that the Mercedes can't pull off.
This one doesn't really feel like 3,600 pounds. Modern tech has made this car feel downright nimble and fast and fun. It is so good through corners.
Now you have to understand that it's all-wheel drive and the weight's out back, and you have to manage it in corners like you always have a 911, but it's not going to bite you like classic 911s. That's where the Carrera 4 comes in, and the fact that over time, as this chassis gotten bigger and bigger and too big, they have made a car that's a lot more agile and docile and less prone to bite.
Get all your braking done, and then get on the throttle. You can get on even earlier in a corner. Dig the car out. It's almost like you want to go find the limit of physics. Yeah, see? Dig hard into the corners. I've got the Porsche dynamic chassis control on, the shocks, turn on the shocks, and the damping. It's the damping through rough roads like this that is so superb. It's so composed.
There's no doubt that Porsche knows how to set up this car. Where I struggle with this GTS is actually the price tag for the experience. The 911 has always been kind of the everyman's aspirational supercar. It's not up with the Ferraris and the McLarens, but maybe if I stretched, I could get a 911. But the cheapest 911 now is about 150 grand, and this is the mid-range.
Does it feel like a $200,000 car? You know what? I'm having trouble. I really am. I am as much of a Porsche enthusiast and super freak as the next one. And I'm having trouble justifying $206,000 for this car. As good as it is, the engine is superb. Listen to that.
Let me put it to you another way. This is a $200,000 911, and it's not even a special one. It's just a good one.
So let's trim some price off of this car. I've never liked carbon ceramic brakes, and these are good, but I feel like the pedal sensitivity and the feel would be much better with iron rotors. So wipe the carbon ceramics off. I mean, both cars have them. It's almost like what you want to do is no options. Spec out your GTS with 0 options, and you know what? Get the Carrera 2, save some money, but even that is still so expensive, it's tough to justify. But nobody has anything on Porsche when it comes to turbo technology. They have completely remastered turbocharging, and that's the cost.
Everyday Driver is brought to you by Griot's Garage. Use the code DRIVER10 for 10% off your order at griotsgarage.com.
What shocks me the most about this AMG is just how capable it is in corners. It reminds me in many ways of the Nissan GT-R. I say that because it's heavier than it should be. It's all-wheel drive. It seems to defy physics by just putting the power down and doing things that its weight and its setup would suggest to you it isn't going to be able to accomplish. But what's crazy is the GT-R didn't need me at all, and the Mercedes is protecting me. There's a slightly different variation here, and this Mercedes, because it's such a nice place to be, because it feels like a luxury item, the fact that it can also do GT-R-style, heavyweight, amazing agility things feels like another luxury added on. There's no steering feel here, not that I was expecting any. You are so isolated from what's going on that steering nuance isn't necessary. There's decent weight, and you can tell that you've weighted a corner, but there's really nothing coming through the steering wheel.
But the car is so precise, and it feels so nimble. It feels 1,000, 1,500 pounds lighter than it actually is. I've told you all the specs. I've told you all the mechanical systems. How did they do that? The steering is it's not twitchy, it's precise, and it makes that weight of the car change direction so quickly. That's what's so impressive.
This lacks the delicacy in steering of the 911, and you can definitely tell that this weighs more. But what's interesting is this is the rare time when I don't care. I'm surprised at that because weight really bothers me in a car, and this is heavy. It's arguably too heavy, but it's so capable, and it feels like such an event that the weight ceases to matter. I actually like the rear steer in this more than I do in the 911. It has taken this big car, and while it doesn't make it smaller, it just makes it so easy to throw into a corner, to stick, and to follow a line. I can't believe something this big is this agile. It's like driving a supersonic train.
This is a tank. This is a hammer in comparison to the 911. This is like using a shotgun to drill holes in a piece of wood. Now, that would imply that it's imprecise, and it is the opposite. It is one of the most precise sports cars I've driven. I'm feeling physics through the corner. It's a heavy, solid object moving at a very high rate of speed, and the car lets you know that. At no point does this feel small and tucked down onto the road. And the car does what you ask, and then asks for more.
You read the stats on this car, and honestly, it's daunting. This is a concerning amount of power in a car that weighs too much. You don't read the spec sheet here and think, oh, that'll be light and agile, interesting. You think, I might die. And then you drive it and you realize it's very approachable, it's very manageable. Mercedes has thought about their customers that are just buying this as a cross-country train and aren't even thinking about the dynamics, but can go crush the Autobahn with it. This is better on the back road than you think, and there's more power than you're ever gonna need. And by the way, have you noticed? I'm comfortable. It's luxurious. Sitting still, this car feels like an event. But it's better when you drive it.
I've even come to love the color combination. I love the gold bronze wheels, but look at this, desert sand, $6,500 option.
We've been debating the color on this car. Lots of things have come up.
Jumanji, desert, Lawrence of Arabia, something like that.
because this is a tank, and in this case, I mean that as a compliment, this is a indestructible, world-ending vehicle. So I think it's Panzer Sand. It's desert camo. It's a Panzer Sand color. This car in this spec is Rommel spec. Let's go conquer a nation.
This is called Desert Sand. It has a lot of yellow pigment. I think it's kind of classy. Although I probably would go for that greenish blue color. I probably would go for that. But I actually like the spec on this car. It's unique. It's different.
I can't slight the price tag of over $200,000 when I think about the cutting edge tech going on here. And I think the new 911 Turbo and many other variants of Porsche products are going to wind up with some version of this hybridization because it's genius and very impressive. What I wonder about is there enough theater, grandeur, and luxury to spend over $200,000 because the technology is worth it.
If you ask somebody, I don't think people would say, yeah, that's totally a $200,000 car. And you know what? The driving experience, as good as it is, can be found on other 911s too.
Imagine $50,000, a quarter of what this costs, being put toward a 997 911. It's a lot of 911. It's the right 911. It was smaller than this. I think this car's gotten too big. I hate to say that. I understand why it's gotten this big, but I think for what a 911 is supposed to be, this is too big.
Okay, the turning radius on this is not good. That is a strike against it. And nobody cares. I had to.
This car is a road tripping monster. There's just no way around it. And what I love is how much the personality of the car does change depending upon your setting. I'm gonna go down from Sport Plus back into Comfort. It got quiet. In fact, it adds in all of the very spaceship sounding noises of this electric powertrain. They're all on display all of a sudden in Comfort mode. Everything just got like a layer of luxury laid on top of it. And this is a very luxurious, nice place to be. I can feel the difference in the Mercedes customer versus the Porsche customer. And candidly, the Mercedes customer is being taken care of more in this car. This feels like a $200,000 car, frankly, in a way that the 911 doesn't. You know what this looks like? You know what this looks just like? It looks like a 911. Yeah, it looks just like a 911. You know what this looks like? Not like a 911. That looks different. This is somehow better.
Beautiful. I thought I loved the first AMG GT.
I did.
I still do, but this got better, and it's really just the hardtop SL.
Mm-hmm.
And the proportion didn't really change. It changed a little bit to accommodate the back seats, which it doesn't need, but it's still the beautiful long nose and that beautiful arc. There's no flat surfaces. It's not a sedan kind of look. It's just a gorgeous centerline arc. Really defines this, but they've accentuated the wheel arches and the entire mass. Look how much wider this is than the 911.
Yeah,
the 911s are wide.
Yes, well, but the 911 is supposed to be a small car. There's barely 6 inches between these two cars. This by itself always looks much, much bigger than the 911. It isn't, but it has such presence. You can drive it fast, you can drive it slow, you can sit it still. That blends with every other 911 on the planet.
A detail I want to point out to you is on the rear here. This jog in the line in the rear bumper crease, it's a jog to accentuate this line that matches the front grille openings, the vents that open in the front. So this is a nice relation to the front of the car, but this could have gone straight through. It's just a fussy little detail. What I think Porsche needs to do at this point is go smaller with the 911 entirely. Now that encroaches on the Cayman, but maybe there's another model that is Carrera GT size, and that'll be their flagship. That'll be the mid-engine. But to make the 911 what everybody, I think, wants it to be in the future, it needs to go smaller because it certainly cannot go larger.
It's amazing to look at this interior and think about all the 911s we've driven, and especially the classic 911s, because they had this exact shape of dash, this very vertical dash with the gauges. And now they've taken that and just incorporated screens throughout. This is the first one to have an all-digital gauge cluster. But the original classic 911 dash shape has been maintained here, and that's actually quite impressive. Your start-stop feature, your auto stop-start, is actually in the screen, which I find quite annoying. Speaking of buttons, this now has a start-stop button instead of a key over here where Porsches have always had the key. This button like this was introduced with this 992.2 generation. Paul has a lot to say about it.
The reason it's over here is because of Porsche's great history, Le Mans history. You used to insert the key, put on your seatbelt, put the car into gear, and you're away. But now there's a start-stop button over here that, okay, it's a button, but it feels Volkswagen parts bin. It doesn't say, start me. When you push that button, you're part of the legacy of the 911. It says nothing about that. Everything you interact with, besides this terrible start-stop button, is of very high quality. The car feels incredibly well built. I love interacting. Everything here is just superb. The seats are comfortable. They feel good. The space is excellent.
Porsche has decided that the GTS is going to come as a two-seat coupe first. You can still option the back seats, but you actually have to ask for them. But they don't actually charge you anything else. If you look back there, there is a ton of space to put things. You do have the front, and you have all this space to the back glass. Amazing visibility and good seats. A lot of piano black on the center console. Don't think we need that. I like the Alcantara in various places that you touch. I don't like it on the steering wheel, but that's just me. Nice leathers, clearly great build quality, but $206,000 doesn't equal this.
Reflection details are what define the GT. Very nice defined shapes with a particular crease, and there's washouts everywhere on the car. Look at the rear, how it goes right into that spoiler. It's just a washout, a crease that blends. So this is defined by highlight. You can see highlights along here. And what's so cool about this are the black rockers and the black apron behind it. It lightens the visual height of the car, that visual weight. If it were black, I think it would look heavier, but here it looks a little bit lighter on its feet. That's little design tricks that designers do to take the mass out of a proportion, out of a shape like this. And I think it really is special on this car. So you sit here and you think, oh yeah, feel the seats, look at the steering wheel, look at the amenities, look at the tech that you've got. The instrument panel is high. The screen actually floats here. There's nothing back here. It floats. And the instrument panel here, every center console is cleaned up now. So most of your controls are here, right here on the steering wheel. Dominated by screens still. I hope they last a long time. I hope this is a long-term car.
There's a ton of information in this screen. Apple CarPlay, everything works very well. It just takes a little bit of getting used to because Mercedes has their own way of setting it up. The Burmeister stereo is excellent. I like these seats for distances more than I do the ones in the 911. These turbine vents, the feel of all the materials, everything about this suggests opulence and maybe a little bit of showing off.
The panel for the door controls here floats just off the door. It's backlit. And even though other stocks to use the transmission, to put it in gear, have felt cheap, this feels robust. It feels like what I've wanted. Everything is crafted. It does feel like a $200,000 car sitting here.
This car is one of those that will look good in every color, and I say that because it looks good in this color, which is a weird color. We decided this is the exact color of the sandstone walls we've been filming next to. It just blends perfectly, and somehow it still kind of works. I would love to see this in all of the colors of the rainbow because I think it would carry all of them, and I can think of lots of cars where that would be the worst color ever, and it somehow works here.
I am rather conflicted.
Well, let's see, we have German cars, one with horsepower, the other with a Porsche badge. I can see how that works, yeah.
I don't know what to do. This is sort of like the modern day 928 for me. I love 928s.
That's true.
Porsche 911, incredible turbo hybrid technology.
Yes.
Mercedes, gorgeous, interesting, beautiful, sexy car with a lot of F1 inspired technology.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk about the fact that, honestly, this is still ultimately a 911, meaning that it can't be much different than it is right now. The cutting edge thing here is all of the hybrid technology, but then it has to be wrapped in a rear engine package. It has to look like this. It has to have these lights. So it is limited somewhat. Mercedes can run around a lot more with this GT and decide what they want it to be. And I think, to my astonishment, it's prettier than the last one, with entirely too much power. I know I'm not supposed to say that. We're car journalists. It's supposed to be more power is always better. This is too much power. I'm on the record saying it right now.
Yeah, too much?
Yes.
How much is too much?
Because here's when too much happens. You can't ever floor it. That's officially too much power.
I want the 911 if it costs less. But I love the turbo technology and I'm willing to pay for it, and I'm willing to see that turbo tech in just about every 911 they make.
Get ready. It's probably going to happen.
It's probably going to happen.
It's going to be across the board in all their stuff.
Porsche needs to downsize the 911. It needs to get smaller. It needs to get less expensive. And this over here needs to weigh less.
Yeah. What I'm amazed by is that we've had an amazing couple of days with these cars, and our big conclusion is great, but now less.
There are so few cars that can do what this does, that are as capable as this car. I think Porsche needs to build a GTS version, a GTS T hybrid, that has even less weight. Everything has been dialed back. It's almost like Carrera T thinking for the T hybrid. This one is really tough for me. $200,000.
I'm amazed that Porsche is able to continue with the 911 as their halo car that's better than the last, in the same shape with the same engine placement. That's genius. However, do we need that? Can we just move on? For $200,000, this isn't nice enough. And I also think it's too expensive for the 911 that you want, which is difficult to say.
When I think about the price and the driving experience and the amenities and how expensive and luxurious this feels like 200,000 plus. I love this for the modern 928 that it is. It's so good looking, it's so special, it's so cool.
If I'm going to buy a sports car, I'm going to buy something smaller and lighter and frankly less powerful than either one of these. But for the money and for the premise, the $200,000 GT car, I think this does a better job at being an event. Pretty much every other 911 has passed through this show at some point in one way or another, and we like them, and they're good. But they've reached a reputation now where they can't be critiqued. If you're a 911 lover and you're watching this, you're just waiting for us to say something wrong. Because the 911 is the lingering rear-engine car, people that are huge 911 fans have concluded they can't like anything else, that nothing touches the 911. And in some variants, I'll agree with you. There are certain versions of the 911 that are astonishing to drive, and every time I drive it, I shake my head that Porsche's done such an amazing car with a platform that fundamentally, at its core, is a flawed idea. But they also make a lot of other cars that are 911s in idea, but not nearly interesting enough. And I hate to say it, but I think this GTS may be one of them.
I want the 928. Ooh, I just called it the 928. Ooh. Can I do that?
If that's where we are, you know what? I'm sure somebody could sell you a Porsche badge, and you could just Porsche badge this.
If I Porsche badge that,
it's solved.
That's the solve, right?
Yeah, you just Porsche badge this. You put 928 on the back, people will be confused. Yeah.
I am so conflicted.